normally is not the case. It's good to have everyone here tonight. We normally meet on the third Tuesday every month at 7:30, and we'd like to have as many people come that wants to be a part of government and see what's going on. Also, we work from a prepared agenda. If anybody wants an agenda, there should be some on the wall over here if you don't have any, so you know just how we're going through the city council meeting tonight. Any citizens who want to address the council, there is a way you can address it. There's a sign-up sheet that we had in the lobby. Right now we have one person. Anyone else want to address the council? Media, Roy Sawyers. Raise your hand, Roy, so everybody knows. Good to have you here, Roy. Katie Mann, good to have you, D News. Anyone else from the media here? I think that's it. Item 2 on the agenda, invocation, Angie, Toth, pastor, Centenary United Methodist Church, and that will be followed by a pledge of allegiance, Tommy Underwood, Fire Chief. Ms. Toth, Pastor Toth. If you please stand.
Let us pray. Gracious God, thank you for the opportunity to come together to do the business of this city. Father, I pray that you would bless these men and women and all those here as they make decisions. Give them wisdom and guidance and understanding. Help them, Lord, to do what is best. And help this to be a time of peace and cooperation. And we ask all of this in Christ's name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I get into item 4, recognitions, that special people I'd like to recognize. I always love going to schools and talking to Cub Scouts and that type of stuff. I'd like for Troop 555, and this is Yates Cully, Bradley Jarrett, and their leader, Sabrina Cully. Could you stand, please? Let's give them a hand. I told those guys I'd recognize them tonight, and they were really looking forward to it. Item 4 on the agenda, recognitions and proclamations. Presentation to Mayor-elect Tuggle and Ms. Sylvia Grogan for Grogan Park by Gildan and Activewear Distribution Corporation. Sylvia. This is Nick Freitag.
Yes, sir.
Nick, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Nick, you want to make a presentation?
Yes, I would like to present to the city and specifically to Sylvia Grogan a check in the amount of $10,000 to the city of Eden in the name of John Grogan Memorial Park. And we do this with the great appreciation for having known John for just a few years, myself personally, but John was so instrumental in attracting Gildan to come to Eden, and we're so glad we're here, and we want to honor his memory by the donation of this amount of money towards that park. Please accept that.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate so much. I know how Johnny had a special relationship with Nick and Gildan, and thanks for setting a standard. Maybe that'll do it. And while I'm here, Karen Tucker and Mila Barnhart, stand up for just a minute. They're working two of the people that are working with us on the design of the park, and I appreciate their being here, and you can thank Nick as well.
Thank you very much.
If I could ask all the city employees to please come up.
And the second part of this is presentation of Mayor-elect Tuggle and Ms. Sylvia Grogan from Grogan Park by the City of the Eden employees. I think just like, this is a perfect example of what we get in the city of Eden. Just like Nick Freitag and Gildan, they have stepped up as an industry, and they've been first class in everything they've done. And since I've been on city council, I've been on city council for 10 years and gotten to know more and more and more of the people that work for the city. What a fantastic group of people to work for and be a part of. And again, they've stepped forward, and Brad, you want to make a presentation here?
Yes, thank you. On behalf of all the city employees, most of you know that Mayor Grogan always treated us special. He always treated us like his family. And it's our honor to present a check in the amount of $28,852 from the city of Eden. Wow.
I forgot I was a little bit taller.
And just an update for everyone, as of today, our current balance is a little over $115,000.
I need to thank you. This has been really exciting, and particularly as the employees, as I've kept up with Brad and kept up with so many of you who have stopped me somewhere. You'll just never, this was Johnny's other family. Maybe this was his family. And we were talking tonight about the amount of time that he spent here and how he loved it. So, and it was y'all he loved. So, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. The next part of the recognitions and proclamations, and this is just a real honor. I think to even be in somebody's presence that has lived to be 100 years, served the community for, I don't know how many years you've served the community, but it's probably a long, long time. But I have a proclamation to read. This is William H. Bill Price. Whereas Bill Price was honored by friends and relatives on the occasion of his 100th birthday on November 15, 2013, lifetime, Bill has demonstrated in countless ways his dedication to the welfare of others and has earned the respect and affection of people from all walks of life at all ages. And whereas Bill was elected to represent Ward 2 and sworn in on May 7th, 1968, serving 5 terms from 1968 until 1987, a total of 19 years. And whereas Bill's wife Hazel was elected and sworn in on December 8, 1987, serving 3 terms, which signifies that both Bill and Hazel Price, representing Ward 2, served the city of Eden for a combined total of 31 years. And whereas the late Mayor Lawrence Cox said it best when describing Bill in 1987, a lifelong resident, a longtime supporter of the community and projects participating in both charitable and service organizations, always in the forefront of new ideas, new programs, and always with a consciousness of what is best in city government. Now therefore, I, Wayne R. Tuggle Sr., by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor-elect of the city of Eden, do hereby deem it an honor and pleasure to extend this certificate of recognition to William H. Bill Price on the occasion of his 100th birthday. With sincere congratulations and best wishes for many more happy, productive years. In witness thereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Eden to be affixed to this 19th day of November of the year of our Lord 2013. What a great honor. We appreciate it. Thank you for everything you've done and how much you've served the community. It's a real honor for you to be here tonight. And we all from the city council, the whole community, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 5, roll call. Let the record show that all council members except Mr. Haygood are present. The city manager and the city attorney is present. Set the meeting agenda, item 6. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Jefferson, I have one, respect to item 13G. I have placed before you a revised ordinance that revises section 2. And if you all will replace this with the ordinance, that's part of the consent agenda.
Do we need to vote on changing that, or just it's included in the vote?
It's included.
We're okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Any changes? Is there a specific agenda?
Revision of the item for the consent agenda.
Do I have a motion, there's a second? Second. There's a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Agenda set. Public hearing. This is item 7. I'd like to declare the public hearing open. Ms. Stultz.
The Nantucket
received a grant in order to purchase it in the name of a nonprofit and stabilize the building in hopes of finding a developer. The current owners refused our offer as we began offering them more than we appraised in 2012, and it came to the place that the state required us to be obligated the money. I will assure you that any dollars spent by the city of Eden were reimbursed to us, and we do not have to return them. I am sad to tell you that happened, and we're looking for other developers and sources of funding to get the project back on the alive stand.
Any questions from council on this? Anyone want to speak in favor? Does anyone want to speak in favor? Does anyone want to speak in opposition? Anyone want to speak in opposition to this? I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? Make a motion. I have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Ms. Stultz.
You have before you zoning case C-1303. You all have heard me make my speech about shopping centers and malls and the things that they have suffered over the last 20 years any number of times. I think as we look at these facilities that it is imperative that we consider broadening the uses that are allowed to make these areas more likely to develop, to create foot traffic and new business. We had a request to allow antique shops, consignment shops, used merchandise sales, flea markets, bakeries, and contractors' offices as permitted use in the business shopping center district, and to amend section 11.29 to add the definition of a flea market. Now, all of that was requested by the applicant, Mr. Wise. We decided to insert bakeries in there, and the planning board agreed to do that. That's a retail shop and the other. Now, one of the things that Mr. Wise asked to be able to do was to have flea market tables outside and to store his contractor stuff outside there at the mall. The planning board, well, your staff was reluctant, and the planning board too, to just allow that as a use by right in anything zoned business shopping center in this community. So what they recommended is that we approve it without the stuff allowed outside until such time as we can get back to the planning board, and they may send a recommendation to you about creating a special use process that could accommodate that. Earlier today, I was having a conversation with Mayor Pro Tem Tuggle, and we discussed the flea market that already exists. And I'll be honest with you, a couple of zoning administrators before me, and we don't know how it happened. It's not provided for in any of our zoning districts. And so I know if you think about everywhere that's zoned business shopping center across our community, we do need to give great care of what happens in those parking lots while encouraging new businesses to go in. So staff recommends approval of this text amendment as amended.
Okay, let me ask you a question about the storage.
Yes, sir.
You know, of course, I noticed in the analysis that we were given, you talked about storage of building materials and equipment. What might that include?
Well, we're talking, it could be anything from work trucks to backhoes. I'm not sure Mr. Wise has those, but we have to consider all kinds of heavy equipment that would be used by a contractor, plus building materials, stacked and stored.
And I know we have to be very aware of unintended consequences. When we do for one, you have to do for somebody else. And it may end up being an awful looking situation for.
It could be fine in one place and not so fine in another.
Yeah.
But this definition, it does not include any outside storage.
Absolutely, and I put it out on the planner's listserv to see what other people do, and most every definition I got back, this is how they handle it.
Mr. Stultz, this is going to be mainly on the inside of the mall?
Absolutely on the inside of the mall.
Is it, I'm sorry.
And also, is it going to be towards all through the mall, or is it just going to be located in?
If you allow it as a use by right, It will not only be allowed at the mall, but it could go in the remainder of the old Walmart building on Highway 14 that's currently not being used. It could go in any empty building, in the former Goodwill store at Kingsway. It could go any of those places as a use by right, but nothing could be outside.
So the Eden Mall, when you say flea market, is that considered anything inside of that area is by definition flea market?
No, sir, he's got, and will continue to have businesses that rent a permanent spot and stay there.
I knew they did, but I was,
But what it will allow is for folks to have consignment businesses or temporary, like on a weekend, if a flea market's gonna be held, it's all inside, but people can come and rent a spot. Having, I'll admit to being somebody that goes to those things, and they bring a lot of foot traffic.
Just curious,
Yes, sir?
what made you add Becker's to this?
Well, we had a request for one, and while I could see absolutely no reason not to do it, we were already mixing in with Business Shopping Center and decided just to clear that up while we were at it.
so there is a bakery that just opened in
Yes,
the mall
sir.
anyway. Actually, I went down and bought a birthday cake today
Yeah.
from them, so.
It is,
So that's a
and,
part of it, yeah.
You know, it's a retail sales, and I feel comfortable allowing it, but the way our ordinance is constructed, it works a lot better if we specifically name it, if we can.
If he turns, okay, one asking for this, if he decides to go all the way through without the mall there, and we have a very prominent business in that one area of the mall, right?
And he didn't own that building. The mall is not under single ownership. The former Kmart building is owned by an outside party, and the Belts building, if that's what you're concerned about, is owned independently from the main body of the mall. Where People's used to be does belong to the current owners and the other smaller stores in the common area.
Any other questions from council?
Could you talk about flea markets just a little bit more? So we have a pretty prominent existing flea market in Eden. And it is
And at
not,
this point,
currently not permitted, but it's always been there, kind of grandfathered
in
in.
my opinion, it's legal non-conforming use, and that was the opinion of the zoning officer before me, and I've been the zoning officer for 17 years. So it came to be sometime in the 80s when Gibson's that was there closed down, and it just kind of happened.
So are we
And
opening
the
up
outside
other
sort of
places for
lower.
flea markets? Is that, are you permitting other places?
Anything in business shopping centers could have it, but none of them can have it outside of what happens, as long as you leave the permitted uses this way.
We just have to be careful about one shopping center as opposed to another. We end up with maybe a lot of storage in one, and maybe okay, you go to another one that we may be trying to develop, and you know, a bunch of storage out there, and you can't get anybody to come in.
Yeah, outside. You know, we always talk about this with amendments to the text of the ordinance. They are not site-specific. So you have to include in your mind, when you think about it, every single parcel is zoned to business shopping center. And we have a number of them.
I was going to say, can you recite those off?
Sure. There's the current Walmart, there's Methodist, there's Kingsway, there's the strip center across from the current Goodwill store, the former Winn-Dixie property out on 770, Zach's Plaza, there's any number.
Oh, okay.
With this definition, would this allow tables to be set up in the walking areas of the, what we would now call the
So long as they meet fire code. And fire staff has inspected what he's had in there, what he's proposing, and they will obviously check it, and my staff will.
Will they be taken down weekly?
That would be up to the owner.
So in other words, the people that already walking that would more or less be,
Well, that I don't know. But it's private property, and it's just like any other piece of property. The owner needs to do whatever he can to make the best business sense with it. I'm sure he enjoys the foot traffic from folks that exercise there, and would be reluctant to do anything to them, but yes, he would have that right. Because it's not public space, it's private space.
Any other questions, council? Anyone want to speak in favor of the zoning text amendment? Is there anyone there who want to speak in favor of the zoning text amendment? Is there anyone want to speak in opposition to the zoning text amendment? Everybody will speak in opposition to the zoning text amendment. No one wants to speak, then I declare the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? Is there a motion for the zoning text amendment change? For council? Well, since we don't get a motion, I guess we'll send this back.
Well, or you could ask if there's a motion to deny the request.
Well, is there a motion to deny?
I make a motion to deny.
There's a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Can't do this.
Good.
Okay.
Show.
Let's go down. Let's show of hands on this one. All those in favor say aye. To deny.
To deny.
To deny.
Deny, the motion is to deny.
Show hands again, please.
Well, so that's, so we're denying this. It's four, that's it. So, motion fails. I mean, motion passes to deny. Okay, the third. I declare this public hearing open for the third, Ms. Stultz.
This is another land use that we talk about an awful lot, and I remind you that in 1979, when the original ETJ was formed, anything that the council at the time did not know what was on the ground, they rezoned, they originally zoned R20. And that was determined to be a holding zone because it was our most restricted zone at the time, until the development pressure changed. Early in my career here, we created a district for residential suburban, which is the basic counterpart to the county's residential agriculture. And it is more readily compliant with what happens in these rural areas. For example, if your property is under R20, if you've got 40 acres, you can still only have an accessory structure, and that includes barns and anything else, half the square footage of your house, or 600 square feet, whichever is greater. However, if you're in RS, it creates a sliding scale. So if you do have an agricultural operation, you can build enough buildings and have enough facilities to support what you're trying to do. Well, we did that a number of years ago. Residential suburban, because it is most often in areas that don't have public sewer, requires larger lots than residential twinning. We had a request from the Fergusons to rezone one parcel to residential suburban, and it is there on Hubbard Street. As we began to take a look at it, and I know all of you have these maps, you can see that over the last several years, we've zoned all of this residential suburban and property to the south and west residential suburban. So what we recommended to the planning board was to amend the request to include these parcels. And then the planning board agreed with that, and then they initiated a zoning study for this area to see if the land use pattern suits what's actually there. And we will bring a recommendation back to council with that in the wintertime, after the holidays. So staff recommends approval of this amendment as amended.
Any more questions from council on this? Anyone will speak in favor? Does anyone want to speak in favor of this amendment? Does anyone want to speak in opposition? Does anyone want to speak in opposition to the zoning map amendment request? Since no one wants to speak in favor or opposition, is there a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the recommended text amendment.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, Pro Tem, if we could revisit 7B, did we take a vote? When we took the vote, did we ask for opposition? Did we
Well, I
ask
didn't
for-
because it was full. There was only two left, so the other two have to be the other way.
Well,
Do we need to take a vote on that?
we do, because if they don't vote, then they are, they support the
Okay,
motion,
all
and
right.
I need it as a,
All right.
can we do that again? We had 4 that were, so we can just take a vote again.
All right, let's take that vote again. All those denying, please raise your hand. Okay, you vote. And the people in favor?
And, thank you.
Very good. Item D, consideration of a request for local historic landmark designation of the Bullock Ray Harrington House located at 650 Washington Street. The request was submitted by the property owner, G.D. Harrington, local historic landmark case, HPCL-13-01. Ms. Stultz.
The Preservation Commission was originally the Historic Properties Commission and was created in the early 80s as a result of some work that many of our local preservationists did and got grant money to do our first historic inventory and to submit National Register papers. The house that we're discussing this evening, the Bullock Ray House, is important to our community not just because of the people that live there and their contributions to the city, but because of the age and the nature of the home. Particularly that it has survived in the downtown area in its condition, and it's a National Register property individually. We have a number of National Register districts, but this one was deemed significant enough that it has been on the National Register for Historic Places 20 years or longer. The Preservation Commission considered this request and unanimously supported it, and you can see from the staff report that your staff does as well. We recommend that you approve the landmark of this property.
Any discussion from council?
Beautiful house,
Pardon?
beautiful house, inside and out.
No question. Anyone want to speak in favor of this Lord designation? Does anyone want to speak in favor? Does anyone want to speak in opposition? Does anyone want to speak in opposition? Declare the public hearing closed. Need a motion? Make a motion.
I'll
Motion. There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes.
I'm going to sit down.
Item 8, audit preservation. Rouse, Ken, Rouse.
Okay, if you will have your audit reports open, if you will turn to page 1 of the audit report, the first paragraph, we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the discretely presented component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city of Eden as of and for the year ended June 30, 2013, and the related notes to the financial statements, which collectively comprise the city's basic financial statements as listed in the table of contents. If you turn to the next page, on page 2, middle of the page, in our opinion, based on our audit, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, the business type activities, the discretely presented component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city of Eden as of June 30th, 2013, and the respective changes in financial position and cash flows. and the respective budgetary comparison for the general fund for the year then ended in conformity with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. So this is the important thing, you have a clean opinion on your financial statements. These statements include your component unit, which is the Eden ABC store. If you have reviewed the city manager's synopsis of the city's audit report, you will have a good overview of the financial position of the city for the year ending. We have reviewed the report and find it very complete and accurate. We were pleased to note that the city manager has addressed each issue that we presented in the management letter. As the finance department employees have received additional continuing education in governmental accounting, and another year of experience, the financial reporting continues to improve. Therefore, the number of adjusting entries has continued to remain at a low level. And I will say this year, we have been working with the staff in the last few years to try to write portions of the report. And this year, in-house, they were able to combine the water and sewer fund to the full pool method. And we've been assisting this year with the gas conversion. And that was done in-house this year. I wrote footnotes, but we are seeing that improvement, and we are happy about that because that's what the city needs to do long-term, to write this report in-house. Okay, now I want to talk about the general fund. If you would turn to page 72. And we're always interested in the fund balance for the general fund. And so if you look down at the bottom of the page, the fund balance of the general fund decreased from $8,915,000 down to $8,443,000. This was a decrease of $472,288. In the prior year, the fund balance increased from $8,554,000 to $8,915,000, and that was an increase of $361,149. On this same page, note that the fund balance available for appropriation, this is the unassigned, is $6,344,000. Also, there is no assigned fund balance appropriated to next year's budget, which was 2013-2014. Whereas in the prior year, you appropriated $708,800 to the 2012-2013 budget. If you hold your place there and also look at page 88, on page 88, the total expenditures for 2012-2013 were $14,338,000. And if you take 1/12 of that amount and multiply it by 3 months, the amount would be $3,584,000. The amount unassigned at June 30th, 2013 was $2,759,499 above the 3 months operating expenses. Note that the 3-month working policy, capital policy was voted on by the council years ago in 1998 and 1999. And the average statewide level of unassigned fund balance maintained by municipalities without electric is 42.84% of general fund expenditures, or $3,368,542. The 2012 average statewide level of unassigned fund balance maintained by municipalities without electric, with a population ranging from 10,000 to 50,000 was 51.11%. or 7,947,165. According to the LGC 2012 calculation of fund balance unassigned, the City of Eden's calculation is 54.44%. This is 11.60% above the state average for 2012, and it's 3.33% above the state average for municipalities in Eden's population range. Now, all of that is very complex when I'm talking about it, so I've done a few slides, very few slides, that kind of talk about this. Okay, are the slides up there?
Yes.
Okay, this is a slide, this pie chart is just talking about the fund balance. And your total fund balance is $8,443,021. And the slices of the pie are how much are allocated to the various reserves or restricted that you have. And you notice the thing that is very remarkable about this is you see how much orange. The orange is good because if you look down on the code, that's your unassigned. That's the fund balance. That's money you haven't appropriated anyway. And you notice that on this 2013 slide, the subsequent year's expenditure, you didn't have to appropriate anything or haven't appropriated anything at this point. Then you see the pinkish red is stabilization by state statute. But anyway, this is a picture of 2013. This is from your audit report right now. Now, I've got this slide for 2012, and what I want to point out is you still have a lot of orange. And here, the subsequent year's expenditures, you see the blue, the light blue, $708,800. So you had to appropriate that much in the prior year. And then I went back 3 years. So this is 2011. And still a lot of orange. You had a little more orange that year than you did in 2011, 2013. But you see there that unassigned was $6,778,769. Any questions about that? I thought maybe this would kind of bring this to life as to what I'm reading these numbers out to you, but maybe you see the pie chart a little bit better. This next slide that I have, it's really talking about the expenditures of the city. And I've got 3 years here, 2013, 2012, and 2011. And the blue in each of them years is the total expenditures of the general fund. And you'll notice on your index over to the right, the total expenditures for each one of those years. This past year was $14,338,022. And you notice where the pinkish red is just the total fund balance, the total pie chart there that we were talking about. And how much those numbers are. And then you see the green and the unassigned fund balance. Now, where you get in trouble in a municipality is if that fund balance, that the unassigned fund balance is not at least 8% of last year's expenditures. And you see that you're in good shape at that. Any questions about that? I have one more slide. Fund balance available. And these figures are not out for 2013 because all these audit reports are not in. So I've made this slide telling you what happened in 2012. And this is the first line on there is statewide, all municipalities. This is the average fund balance available across the state. It's $3,368,542. And that average fund balance available as a percentage of average expenditures was 42.84. And then I compared it with units without electrical systems, which this is what you are. And with the population range of 10,000 to 49,999. And their fund balance was high, $7,947,165. And their percentage was 51.11%. So then I pulled out Eden. And Eden, with a population per their records of 15,468, the fund balance available was $7,070,283. And the percentage, the average fund balance available as a percentage of average expenditures was 54.44%. I think that's pretty good information, and I think you're doing well in keeping your expenditures in line and your fund balance in line across the state. Any questions?
I have one question. It may not be able to answer this year, but I looked from 2011, 2012, 2013, the expenditures, $1.2 million difference in 11 and 12, and probably about another $700,000 in 12 to 13. The expenditures are going up that much. Are our revenues going up at the same rate? And you probably may not be able to answer that question.
Well, and I'm going to get to this, you have like a little increase this year in franchise tax revenues. Well, I'm going to probably answer some of that as I go through the expenditures. Any questions about my slides? I didn't want to put too many slides, but I think the fund balance is so important that this is good information for everybody. Thank you. Okay, on page 74, we're going to be talking about the budgeted revenues. If you look at the very bottom of the page, the budgeted revenues were $13,349,800. The actual revenues were $13,356,170, and that was a favorable variance of $6,370. So you actually made your revenues what you projected this last year. The revenues were up from the prior year. And if you look over there in the right-hand column, the total revenues in the prior year were $13,326,639. And going back, turn back to page 73, and we'll start at the top and hit some highlights. The ad valorem taxes, the city collected $77,473 under the budgeted amount. Under unrestricted intergovernmental revenues, and that's middle of the page, the last year's receipts were $3,557,359, whereas this year's were $3,596,704. This was an increase due to the receipts from franchise tax and the state hold harmless payment. And I think on the sales tax, some of the sales tax amounts were up a little bit, but some were down too. So I don't think that you can project much with sales tax. It's pretty I think it's pretty flat. Notice on page 73, under restricted intergovernmental revenues, in the prior year the city received $861,997. During the current year, the amount was $694,299. The decrease is mostly related to a North Carolina Department of Transportation reimbursement that you received in the prior year, and you did receive that in this current year. If you return to page 74, middle of the page, under sales and services, the revenue remained fairly stable. in the prior year, the revenue, and this is in the blanking column, was $2,179,150. And this year, it was $2,161,943. And Jim, that was above budget. So that kind of held its own. Then under your miscellaneous revenues, they were up from the prior year, which was $143,073, and they were up to $191,887. This was due in that section where Gildan gave reimbursement on a road that was near the plant. And so they reimbursed the city. I believe they reimbursed them for about half the cost. Also, you had some sale of fixed assets this year, and the other thing is the Kiwanis gave a contribution that's in that category to the park. So I don't know what to tell you on that, about, I think you were pretty in line with what you budgeted in each of the areas.
If I can interject just for a second, there were really about 4 reasons why the expenses this past year were a lot higher than the previous year. As you may remember, the first thing is that the council agreed to do about $600,000 in additional street resurfacing, which is why we, in the previous year budget, had allocated the $708,000. A lot of it was for that project, so that was one thing. Second of all, as you may remember, the police department has not purchased vehicles in many, many years, and the audit reflects, I think, $435,000 going to those vehicles. Third, if you look under the performance incentives agreements that we have in place with our industries, those increased by about $86,000 this year. And then fourth, just the cost on streetlights increased by about $20,000.
But with those incentives, we did pay out more, but we should have received more.
Right, and that was reflected in the ad valorem taxes.
Okay, if you turn to page 88. We were talking about the total operating expenditures. They totaled, third column, middle of the page, $15,880,600. The actual expenditures were, that was the budgeted expenditures. The actual expenditures were $14,338,022. And so that was a favorable variance. You came under the budget $542,578, which compared with the actual expenditures for the prior year of $13,623,229. The total expenses this year were up 5.2% from the prior year. And just as Brad said, those are the things with the streets. You spent 400-some thousand out of the power bill, but you don't have enough money in the power bill to do all the improvements that need to be done. And probably, as a board, you probably decided that some of the streets needed to be done, and so you paid it out of just your regular operations within the street department, which is one of the things I was going to point out, but that's exactly what happened. So that is a major part of that increase in expenditures. One of the things with your expenditures, there were no items, no departments over their budget. So everything was within the budget this last year. Any other questions related to general fund? I mean, you have a really detailed explanation of departments and how much they were budgeted and how much they were under or over budget or whatever with the synopsis that Brad gave you. Okay, if not, we'll go into the water and sewer fund. The first comment, though, that I need to make is that on page 107, we always talk about how much money that is appropriated or out of the water and sewer fund that goes into the general fund to reimburse what we call the utility service fee, and that's found on page 107. This last year, it was $1,101,842, and the prior year, it was $1,047,144. So that's pretty much in line, and as you know, they use a spreadsheet trying to allocate the time involved in spending in general fund compared with water and sewer line. The next thing, let's talk a little bit about the special revenue funds. I'll just hit the highlights on those. They're found on page 89 through 96. You'll turn to page 89. The fund balance for each one of these, the emergency communication had a fund balance of $16,032. The municipal service district tax had a fund balance of $5,730. And that is the money that is distributed for Draper and for the Washington Street area. It's a special tax. The community development block grant did not have any money. It had a zero fund balance. And if you will turn to page 96, that gives you the details of the 3 grants that were within the community development block grant. The first grant there, the community development block grant on Holland Street, that grant was actually closed out during the auditing process. You were audited from the state on that and got a clearance, a couple of items they picked up on it, and those have been cleared. So that grant has been closed out. The Stone Creek Apartments, has it been closed out, Kelly? It's almost
It's not finally closed. We've got some documents just to finish.
okay. And tonight, I think you have a petition on the Nantucket Mill project. So probably these will probably be closed out. All 3, everything will be closed out next year unless you get new grants. Okay, on page 97, this is the water and sewer fund, the balance sheet for the water and sewer fund, and look at the bottom of the page. Notice that the equity in the water and sewer fund decreased from $46,575,930 down to $46,235,426. Notice that the cash and investments at the top, they decreased from $7,377,714 in the prior year down to $5,663,559 in the current year. The total assets of the water and sewer fund this year were $58,442,268, and that's the figures found in the middle of the page, compared with in the prior year of $58,975,947. And total liabilities, if you look down almost the 3rd line up from the bottom, that the total liabilities decreased from $12,400,017 down to $11,806,842 because you're paying off another year of debt. The income statement for the water and sewer fund is found on page 98. At the top of the page, notice that the operating revenues amounted to $6,949,331, and this compared with $6,998,736 for the last year. This was a decrease in revenues of $49,405. On the same page, the non-operating income from grants, and if you look, this is near the bottom of the page, the capital grants last year were $868,909. This year, $1,833,913. So you got a lot of grant money in the water and sewer fund this last year. On this same page, notice the operating expenses. The operating expenses in the prior year were $8,484,184, and in the current year, $8,729,874. And you see, one of the big items there is that sewer construction maintenance. There's a lot of engineering fees that's in that figure. I also here notice that the depreciation expense actually decreased. In the prior year, it was $2,617,333, and this year it was $2,478,535. And on the same page down at the bottom, non-operating deductions, the interest expense, as you're paying off years on the debt, the interest hopefully will go down, and it did this last year from $414,631 down to $379,946. To summarize the water and sewer fund, this year you realized a net loss of $304,504 compared with the loss last year of $945,997. The details of the budgeted water and sewer fund are found on pages 101 through 109. And the only comment I want to make is that if you look at the last page on page 109, I think it is, you will see how much you put in capital outlay this past year. If you want to turn there, it's reconciling items. This is when we pull these statements to the full accrual basis. The capital outlay in the water and sewer fund was $3,864,910. And I kind of wondered about that figure and how it compares across the state with what other municipalities are doing with water and sewer capital outlay. And I looked up that information, and it says the average amount spent from the municipalities our size in the last 5 years, averaging those out, was $2,821,877. So you are putting more back in the system than I average across the state for municipalities in our size. The last 2 years in the footnotes, we have tried to get a list of the commitments or plans that you have for water and sewer, and I won't go into those, but they are found in the report, and it shows some projects that are going to extend out to 2017, and that's found on pages 44 and 45. I'm not going into that today, but that's good reference, I think, of a collaboration within the departments as to getting that schedule together. Any questions about the water and sewer fund?
I've got one question. I think this is a question that continually comes up with us all the time about the administrative order for EPA. Even though we've averaged spending double what communities our size is spending, I think on average probably $4 million a year for the last 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. What bothers me is when we're going to be under a compliance order to follow through with this administrative order, and could be fined $37,500 a day for non-compliance. We've already raised water and sewer rates a number of times, and we're still falling short. But all of that's because of all the capital money we've put into water and sewer over the years, and it's still not enough. And they will give us 5 years to try, and could cost us $30 million. Have you and Rex had much of a discussion about where we need to go to try to deal with $30 million over the next 5, 6, 7 years max?
We haven't had that discussion.
Well, but one thing on the other side is that we talked about the total remaining commitment, but this commitment is reduced right much lower now than it was last year this time we presented the financial statement. The remaining commitments on these projects scheduled through 2016 is right at $9 million, which is a lot of money, but it's down significantly from last year. And a lot of this, it will be covered, is covered by grants, and the details of how much will be funded through grants is also listed on page 44 and 45. And to me, it's not gonna be something that we can't handle. We don't have a whole lot of debt. I don't think that $11 million in debt that we have right now is too great for a town this size, and I think it's something we can manage.
Well, your legal debt margin is something like 72 million, but you don't want to get anywhere close to that.
But still, whatever debt we have, we obviously have to have enough money to pay the debt that we do have.
That's right.
It really gets into water and sewer rates and those types of things,
Right.
and when you're put under an administrative order, and for non-compliance of $37,500 a day, you've got to do what the EPA requires you to do, no matter what.
And
It's just a real dilemma.
it is, and this last year, so you were fortunate getting all that much in grants. When you talk about the amount that you paid out, what, 3.8 million in capital outlay, well, you got 1.8 million in grant money to pay that. So you
And then
have,
if we fall short on grants along the way.
Well, that's right.
it's more
That's
than we
right.
do, 'cause
That's
Calvin
right.
County's grants.
that's the risk, because grants are not so easy to come by. And some of these grants is payback on them, but you don't have to pay any interest. And some of them are called, I don't know why they call them just a grant, but they call them loan forgiveness, which in my opinion is sometimes a grant.
And Brad, am I right to say that some of these are down because we thought that's all the engineering that we could do for a certain period of time? I mean, can we talk about that at one point in time?
Well, it is. We had to cut back because, again, the problem is if you look at the operating revenues coming in versus the operating expenses, it's about even. There is no money really for capital outlay items. And so the grants are what has allowed us to get by. And the other thing is the EPA administrative order is really just to touch the iceberg, as you're going to see. We'll have a special meeting in February on the future of the water and sewer fund. But what you're going to see is that in addition to the EPA administrative order, which could be somewhere around $30 million in needs, if you look at the other existing ongoing needs, whether it's the water plant, the wastewater plant, collection and distribution lines, that's millions and millions of dollars as well. So there's no doubt that to pay for we can borrow the money, there's no problem with that, but you've got to bring in enough money to pay the debt service on that new debt. And so there's no doubt that there's going to be some tough decisions ahead for the city council.
I appreciate it. I just wanted to bring that up so you and Rex could think about this until next year. That'll make it easy to make a decision on this thing.
That's because of the sweat. Any other comments on water and sewer? Okay, turn to page 110. This is your self-insured insurance fund, and it has a fund balance. The fund equity at June 30th was $287,197 compared with the prior year of $137,142. Near the end of the year, they did transfer out of water and sewer fund and general fund to put some additional money in there in case the claims came in higher than expected. And it's one of those things that's very hard to judge. You just never know what claims are coming in. But anyway, the fund showed a surplus at the end of the year. The income statement for the self-insured insurance fund is on page 111. And your insurance claims were just about in line with what they were in the prior year. And your fixed costs were just really close to what they were in the prior year. Okay, on page 113, you have the trust fund, which is your special separation allowance for the police. It had a fund balance of $6,863, and you know that what you're doing is you're paying that police separation pension fund pay as you go. And you use the fund balance that was in that fund some time ago, and basically you're just paying it out of your operations. The one about Travel Club is not really money of the city. It's like an agency fund, and at the end of the year, it had $16,058 in it. The details of the long-term debt on page 65. This is what Rex was referring to. Here, you see the installment purchases. At the top, you've got the governmental activities, and the bottom, the business type activities, which is your water and sewer fund. And so if you add those installment purchasing amounts together, your debt is $13,010,405. And of course, most of that debt, almost exactly $11,000, is water and sewer debt. The legal debt margin that the city can have is 80% of your assessed valuation. And your assessed valuation is found at the back. Found on page 118, I believe. So if you middle of the page on the left-hand side, $902,700. $2,018. If you take that multiplied by 8%, that's what the maximum debt the city can have. That's $32,216,161. That is actually found in the footnotes on page 118, that number. We always talk about the collection rate for property taxes, and right on page 118, your collection rate was 97.12%. Your last year's collection rate was 97.18%. And a year before, 97.14%. So you kind of in that 97% range. The state average collection rate for 2012 was 97.48%, including vehicles. The city's rate was 98.36%, excluding motor vehicles. The state average, excluding vehicles, is 98.30%. So we are slightly above the state average when we exclude vehicles. Those percentages are found at the bottom of page 118. You've got a printout of the interest income that you earned. You have a good bit of money invested, but you're not earning very much money on it. Interest income amounted to $71,879 compared with $102,793. That is less than 1%, 1 cent of additional property tax. It's about 0.8% that you're earning from interest. I can remember when it was much higher, the interest income was something like $700,000 receiving money. So you cannot depend on interest income to carry you through. You've got 2 letters. One of the letters basically is saying that we had no problems in doing the audit. We had cooperation from the staff. The only estimates we've got in this audit are the estimates on the life of capital assets and on the amount allowance for uncollectibles. And we are using the actual studies by 2 independent bodies. The police separation allowance has an actual study, and your OPEB obligation has an actual study. So we use that information for those studies. The other letter that we wrote is the management letter. It's very similar, and the one in the past. As I spoke earlier, you've done a really good job of keeping the adjusting interest down, which means to me that you're getting more accurate information on a monthly basis at your meetings. So when you have these adjustments, we don't have a lot of adjusting interest. And one of the things that we find, when we're trying to move this audit up and get it out as quickly as possible, and they're trying to get the information to us to do the audit, you can't always make all the adjustments by August 15th, because there's still money coming in that reflects back to June 30th. And we try to get your report as accurate as possible. So that's why you have some adjusting interest that we call, those are interests proposed by city personnel. So we commend you for doing your action rule studies, and you need to continue to do those. This OPEB obligation is something you certainly should be aware of. You're paying some of it as you go because of the retired employees that you already got, but you have no reserve set up anywhere for the OPEB obligation. And the OPEB obligation is actually found on page 70. If it were actually funded, it would be like $6 million. So that is something you need to be aware of, and you're doing something for it along on it because you're paying the retirees portions of their insurance. But that's a heavy obligation too if you look into the future. Again, you need to probably get your water and sewer rates adjusted for those businesses that you do that each year. We always make that comment. I don't know anything else to say. I think I said enough, right? Have any other questions? Henrietta was instrumental in helping me get this audit out as quickly as we did this year. I think we were one of the few to get it into Raleigh as early because I couldn't believe they had feedback on it within just several days. So we're very happy about that. Any questions? If you have questions and you don't feel free to ask tonight, give me a call.
I'd like our finance department to stand, because I'll tell you, you couldn't do it without them. They have been terrific. And with Michael, Amy, Lynn, all you young guys, thank you for everything you do.
They did a terrific job.
Yeah.
I'll say that all the departments were very cooperative in the information that we needed throughout the audit. It's a big job. So it's a big report. And it takes, I was telling, when you're talking about the report, this writing the report is not an easy job, and for Angie to start tackling doing this is very commendable. So we're very happy about that. I think it's good for the future.
I'd be willing to bet you that anybody sitting in here would absolutely know that an accountant has to be a certain type of person to deal with this type of stuff.
I'll be married to one. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the great job, you guys.
Thank you very much.
And our finance department, thank you guys. Requested petitions of citizens. We had one person to sign that. It is Roger Hodge. Mr. Hodge, could you come forward? Could you give your address, Mr. Hodge?
I live at 625 Fisher Street.
Okay.
I came here about 6-7 years ago because I was having a lot of problems with drainage on Fisher Street. And when I left here, basically, everything was going to be fixed. Asphalt, curbing, and guttering. I've got up on Victor Street, that's a street right above it. There's a water drain that comes out of y'all's water, the city's water, comes off and onto my property. And I put in a 12-inch pipe across my land down there, and y'all had a 21-inch water main to bust. And needless to say, the 12-inch pipe wouldn't hold it, it'd worse than come out of the ground. I spent about $3,000 more down there. But my main concern is, I've been living there about 10 years. I pay between $1,800 and $1,900 a year in taxes. And not one time had the street sweeper been down my street, you go over right now, I've got weeds this tall, all, because y'all don't, the city don't mow my ditches no more. The road has got grass, I went and measured that, I've got some pictures back here with my wife's got them, if y'all want to see them. But 27 inches out the road, the grass is growing, covering the road. I get nothing down there. I mean, absolutely nothing. My leaves, people don't even pick my leaves. Well, I can't say that. Y'all have got one super good employee, and that is the black gentleman, the skinny black gentleman that wears glasses that picks our garbage up. Now, he is a real good employee. But as far as the rest of the service I get down there, it's basically nothing. And I'm just tired of paying all these taxes and not getting one thing. And it bothers me when I go out and ride through town and I see where y'all have put this money out here on these little curb crossings so people can get to this side of the road to that side of the road. There's nothing wrong with the road. Just like the mural y'all got painted on the side of a building up there. Ain't no telling how much money y'all wasted on that thing. And I'm going to tell you, it offended most of the black people because they picked slaves pushing a boat. And I don't blame that. But the other thing that bothers me, one more thing, is this little private parking lot you put down yonder in front of the city put down there in front of Phil Price's business right there, where he lives at. You know, and I am tired of, and plus, at the very bottom of the street, the drainage is 15-inch pipe in it, and it will not take it. It runs over. I own 3 houses over there. And let's get back to the part of the water coming off of 50th Street. Y'all's the city's water coming on my property. That was supposed to have been fixed. Tammy told me, Tammy, the development. Tammy. Keep little gray. Yeah. I'm still one of your favorite people, Tammy. She took it. We're going to get, she told me she'd have to get permission for y'all to take that line across, where it needed to go to get off my property, across my property. Well, I bought the rest of the land from where I stopped at all the way down around the turn and everything, so you wouldn't have no problem with that. I told her that, and she said I could basically forget it. I could forget it. Well, what is the city council meeting for? If y'all want to tell me, yeah, this is this, and then somebody else gonna override y'all, that's no good. What should I do? Quit paying taxes? Tear my houses down? I mean, I feel sorry for everybody that lives on that street. I mean, we get nothing.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and for you to even tell us this. We'll try to work with you on some things.
How about getting somebody out there to clean the ditches up and put some on?
Hold on a minute, what I'm gonna do is.
What we'll do is we'll go back to the minutes. First of all, find when he was here 6 years ago, find out exactly what the council did or did not say that evening. I'll get with Tammy and get an update from her. We'll also check on everything else he said, and then I'll send out a report to you all on my findings, and he can have a copy if you'd like it as well.
City manager, you want to make contact with me?
Yeah, we can get him a copy of it, but clearly, I mean, he said several things, and so I'll check into them, and we'll see what's what.
We'll get back with you, okay?
Yeah, that'll be good.
I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much.
It's all. Councilman, go over here.
You died.
Did you die?
Yeah.
Well, he was one man that can help me out on getting all this approved, and he even got a bill passed where the city will pay for any time there's water on private property that you can get an application and sign it out, and the city will go half 50/50 with you up to $4,000. Well, I mean, I ain't wanting to make.
Yeah, we'll check those things out, and you've made yourself clear as to what your concerns are. The city manager will get back with you and we'll give you the information, and we appreciate you coming.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 10, unfinished business. Nothing on the schedule. New business, nothing consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Make a motion to accept the consent
Is there a
agenda.
second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Consent agenda is approved. Announcements, item 14, December 7th, 2013, Director Volunteer Fire Department Children's Christmas Parade is at 11 o'clock. And we didn't have the Leesville Parade, I think it's November 29th. Cindy, what time does it start?
I'm sorry?
What time does the Leesville Parade start? 6:30, okay. It's November 29th at 6:30, Leesville Parade. And item 15, Citizens Academy, graduation. All of you folks that had to stay this long, this is probably the longest meeting we have had in years. So, you can see every once in a while we get into this, but when we have an audit go through, it is long, complex, then get some other things come in, but anyway, I apologize for it taking this long, but that's just the way it works sometimes. The Citizens Academy, just for the information for those of you here that don't know very much about it anyway, actually this was John Grogan's idea to do a Citizens Academy. And he thought it was a good idea to try to give people in the community an opportunity to see what goes on in the city. There were 10 sessions, I think 2 hours, is that right? About a 2-hour session, anyway, orientation night, water and wastewater plants, parks and recreation, public works, fire, police and information technology, finance, human resources, planning, inspections, economic development, tourism, and of course graduation. And I hope all of you that were in there, you certainly learned something along the way, and you find out it's a lot more complex than a lot of people think. Just buy one fire truck, it costs up to $1 million. I mean, how quickly the money can disappear. And it's a very complex, it's a difficult thing dealing with all this. And as you saw with the audit tonight, that's not an easy thing to keep up with all the stuff. So all of you that were involved in this, you want to just call the names to begin with? Tim Biggs, Tim is absent tonight. Tamara Cable, you can come forward. Kristen Crispin, you come forward. Will Flint, Hope Gibb, Angela Hamlin, Obira Harris, Tiffany, forgive me for your last names, I don't want to say Cherokee. Is that good? Okay, not bad, never heard that name before. Leslie Lawson, Alexandra Lucas, Virginia Lena, Katie Mann, Betty Merritt, Barney Merritt, Barney's up here tonight, Philip Rayburn, Jacob Scales, Lynn Stevens, and Vicki Underwood. Let's give all those folks a big hand. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think they voted on favored learning experience. City of Eden Planning and Inspections Department, Kelly Stultz, Director, Debbie Galloway, Deborah Madison, Bob Benson, Joshua Woodall, Juliet Speaks. Congratulations.
Thank you all. We have no sirens or flashing lights.
And since you guys did such a good job, you can take a week off next week.
Oh, yeah. We start tomorrow.
Favorite Instructor 2013, and we have a nice plaque here that's going up that had names on there. Of course, favorite instructors, Kevin Taylor, Information Technology.
All I want to say is, Tammy, IT rules, potholes rule.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Wow.
Big time. And we appreciate all of you guys for coming, participating, being part of it. Thank you very much.
I was like, she's in myself.
And for the moment we've all been waiting for, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. Got a second in discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. And we are adjourned. And as a reminder, we have a reception at the back for anyone who wants to participate. Thank you very much. Thank
Oh yeah, it's like a movie. How are you doing?
You're not in wood. Where is the? You're not in. Did you come by yourself yet, Bueno? Oh, she left you. She's still there. Just like a person. Well, you can never see it. So right. Go online now.